Arthi has this gun. She has a gun. Let fantasy characters have guns, please. Hello everyone, welcome back to Rainy Rambles, or welcome if you're new. My name is Damla, and I talk about books on here. Today, I'm doing a book review. Yes, I am talking about one book for an entire video. Wow. This is actually something I've been wanting to do, but I just never really got to, and then I was like, why not do it? Book reviews are really fun. So today, I am reviewing A Tempest of Tea by Hafsah Faizal. This is a young adult fantasy book where we follow our main character Arthi as well as a couple of other characters into this heist that they're going to do. Arthi runs this tea room, that transforms into a blood house by night for vampires. There are vampires in this world. There's a lot happening. There's romance, there is betrayals happening quite a lot too, and I just thought I would talk about what I thought of it. I made annotations, as you can tell. Full transparency, I love Hafsah Faizal, so I'm a little biased here. Not gonna lie. I decided to rate this book 4 stars. If you want the quick rating, I really liked the book. I thought it was fun. I love the characters. There were a couple of issues that I had. Maybe I am just not great when it comes to reading heists, but when it came to like fight scenes or like stuff happening, I was sometimes a little like confused as to what was going on. But again, that is something that has also happened with heist books like Six of Crows that I've read. This book takes place in the same world as Hafsah Faizal's other duology, We Hunt the Flame and We Free the Stars, and I like the little nods towards that nation and having it be involved, rather than these entities being separate. But it is to an extent that you can still read this book alone and be fine. I really like that. Now onto my more in-depth opinion on it. I was honestly a little scared going into it because some booktubers that I really like said that they were very disappointed by this book, and that made me scared to read this, I'm not gonna lie, but I'm happy to say that I wasn't really disappointed by it. I wasn't like super blown away necessarily, but it was a fun book and I really enjoyed it. As I said, Arthi runs this tea house, and it is basically this world is super interesting. So I think it's inspired by like 19th century, like Victorian era England, which I think the nation they are in also is based on, and where Arthi is from is based on a South Asian nation. I forgot which one. I'm gonna try to see if I can figure that out. And so colonialism is a pretty important theme in this book that I think comes into it in a pretty interesting way. You can tell it's a nod towards colonialism, but not to the point that it becomes obnoxious. I really enjoyed it myself and it was really interesting, and I don't want to say colonialism is interesting, but I think Hafsah Faizal did really well. And it was really nice to see Arthi's love for Spindrift. I do, in hindsight, but it makes sense, kind of wish we had more time in Spindrift and with Spindrift, but it is also understandable why that wasn't really the case. It's a little hard to describe for me, but that is something that I just felt. Maybe I'm wrong here, I don't know. I also thought the writing was really good. If I compare it to We Hunt the Flame and We Free the Stars, there was one thing that was also present in We Free the Stars that I was a little like worried about or like unsure of, which was that there were a lot of jokes thrown around by a lot of the characters, or especially the characters that were like known for doing this, and I sometimes wondered if that sort of caused the seriousness of the situation or just the like overall mood to be a bit weird. But I feel like in A Tempest of Tea I didn't really get that impression. I also thought the way this world goes about how vampires in this world exist was really interesting. Vampires are pretty much oppressed here in this society, just as like a lot of groups are. Arthi's entire crew is just this like group of almost all people who are in some way oppressed or in some way dealing with it. You could argue that Flick is very privileged, which she is, but that is because of like who adopted her, not necessarily her as a person, if that makes sense, like what she is born, who she's born as. Let me just get into our characters also. We have Arthi, our main character, who runs the tea room. Then we have Jin, who is essentially Arthi's brother, but not by blood. I loved their like sibling ship, is that a word? the way they interacted as siblings was amazing. Jin also works at the tea room. He meets Arthi as a very young child after his house is burned down and his parents are presumed to be dead. They've just kind of been together ever since. Then we also have Mateo, who is a vampire that I think Arthi has like known for a while, and he's like joining them on this heist. I forgot what his exact motivations were, but this heist that they're doing is in this event where like a lot of vampires are. And we also have Flick, who is someone who's really good at forging. Also, I'm gonna be honest, I wasn't that interested in Mateo, so maybe that is why I barely remember his backstory, because Flick, on the other hand, is someone who is really good at forging. She was adopted by this woman, I forgot her name. She's just very sweet, but also, later on in the book, she is starting to like embrace not just being like super sweet and kind all the time. She starts to embrace anger. Then we also have Leith. Oh my god, Leith. So he works for what was it called? The Ram, which is like the leader of this nation, if I recall correctly. Leith is from Arabia, which is the nation that We Hunt the Flame takes place in. He also has a cat that is adorable, by the way. I will insert some of the art that is out there of these characters. Leith also joins them on this mission. I forgot what his exact motivation was, but I will say Arthi is kind of like side-eyeing him for that reason. I don't think I have the time to go into everyone's backstory. Also, the romance. So I really like the romance between Flick and Jin. There's this, oh my god. Basically, the like touch her and you will die thing happens. I was not expected to love that as much as I did, but oh my god. I will say, when it comes to tropes, I am not really invested in the tropes themselves if I don't feel invested in the characters, but I was invested in these two, and oh my god, they're so cute. There's just like weird like love triangle-ish thing going on with Arthi, Leith, and Mateo. Gosh, Leith was so devastating. Leith ends up betraying Arthi. Oh, I forgot to mention another important thing. Oh my god. So, this also kind of involves the legend of King Arthur, Arthi, and Arthi has this gun. She has a gun. Let fantasy characters have guns, please. This is so fucking cool. You know how like the myth of King Arthur is, I think there's this sword that like no one can take out except for King Arthur. Kind of the same with Arthi. There's this like gun that only she can take out and use. It is kind of like a like mystery slash-ish thing. So anyway, she has that. And the gun transforms into whatever she needs. So it can transform into like a knife, into like a hairpin that is deadly. So it's so cool. It's such a cool idea. I really liked what was it called again? Caliber? I think that's what the gun is called. Leith tries to steal it, and he kind of knows that it's like a suicide mission at that point, because Arthi is not letting go of it, and she ends up saying something like, "Leave now or I'm going to kill you," and I think he ends up leaving. This is all over the place. Oh my god. So my overall thoughts. Plot, I really liked. I do wish the heist started earlier. I've seen people say that they were bored because it took so long. I wasn't necessarily bored. I understood why there was a build-up to this heist, but I do wish it started a little earlier, because I feel like it was very quick and just kind of like, okay. There were also times where I sort of struggled to understand where we were, but that could also be me. Just putting that out there. Maybe that is not the book itself. I thought the tension between characters was really good. I really liked that. There was this reveal at the end. Arthi turns out to be a vampire. I think some sort of like half vampire. Something weird happened with her turning into a vampire, and I didn't see that coming. I will have to read the book again to know for sure, but with some plot twists, they happen and I'm like, oh my god, of course, I should have known. And with this one, I was like, where did this come from? What? Maybe that is an issue on my part. Maybe that is an issue with me. But I do want to know, if you have read A Tempest of Tea, if you also experienced that as well. Because I was like, wait, what? She's a vampire? Like, what? Huh? There were maybe like very small hints, but I couldn't really put my finger on it, I guess. However, despite those issues that I had, I really liked it. I mean, you could tell by how I talked about it. I love this book, which is why I gave it 4 stars. I will also say another thing that I just want to put out there. I've seen some reviews say that this book was trying too hard to be Six of Crows. I don't fucking see it. First of all, the heist starts way later. You could maybe draw some very small parallels between Arthie and Kaz Brecker, but that even could be a bit of a stretch. And I'm especially saying this because I came across some tweets of Hafsah Faizal where she specifically says that like she was trying really hard to make this book not be Six of Crows. There's a heist, but there are vampires. For example, the dynamic between Nina and Matthias, not there in A Tempest of Tea as far as I know, or like not in the same way. Leith does work for the government, but he's not indoctrinated. He knows, he understands it somewhat. Of course, we all have some prejudices, but you know what I mean? I can somewhat maybe understand it to some extent, that you see some similarities, but to say that this is like trying to be Six of Crows, I don't think that that was it. It was really not. What I will say is I think that is not like the fault of the author necessarily. I think it's also just partly a thing that happens with advertising. This was advertised as like Peaky Blinders meets Six of Crows. Just because your book has a heist does not make it Six of Crows or like Six of Crows. And I do think it's interesting that on one hand, people are saying it's nothing like it, on the other hand, they're saying it's trying too hard to be Six of Crows. But anyways, I think that marketing also almost did a disservice to the book because I really liked it, and I don't really care about that type of marketing where you say like this book meets this book is A Tempest of Tea. I just read it because I was genuinely intrigued. If I expected this to be Six of Crows, I would have rated it differently. And that is really sad because I do personally really enjoy the book, and a lot of people's grievances with the book was that something was advertised to them and the final product was not what was advertised. Another thing that is good to know is that there's going to be a sequel to A Tempest of Tea coming out next year. So if you want to read, I think this might be a duology, then maybe wait until the second book is out, because now I need to wait for a whole year for the second book to come out, and I'm not okay. That was my all over the place, unhinged review of A Tempest of Tea. I hope you enjoyed it. It was a little all over the place. If you have read the book, please let me know what you think. I want to talk about this book with other people, but I don't know people personally that have read it and have enjoyed it as much as I have. So yeah, just let me know what you thought of the book if you've read it, why you liked it, why you maybe disliked it, do you agree, do you disagree with what I said out here? I mean, after all, it's just my opinion, so maybe I am wrong, you know. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a like if you do, and if you want to see more, maybe consider subscribing. I also have Instagram, Twitter, Goodreads, and Storygraph, so you can follow me on there as well. Link is in the description. And I will see you in the next video. I hope you take care of yourself, and I hope you have a lovely day. Please enjoy the summer, wherever you are. Or I guess winter, if you're in the southern hemisphere. Anyway, I'll see you in the next video. Bye!